I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
And this is Iron Maiden.
Brighter than 1,000 suns.
This is for the big homie.
Halta.
Halta?
Halta? Halta? How do you say it?
I'm pretty sure it's Halta. Brighter than 1,000 suns. To tell all the people, well, for timely topical political commentary, you can hit us up at Middle America Vin and Sori. Although we had a marathon fireside. It's about 6 hours long, so you can watch that in all its goodness. Current events were a topic. Very it was a very eye-opening segment. You say it that way, inshallah. Shout out to everybody. Oh Lord.
For sticking with the big homie that long.
Hey, that's
both of them.
That's what it's about. That's what it's about. So check it out, Middle America Vin and Sori. If you want to be part of the Middle America community, it's facebook.com/America Middle. There's multiple ways to get your song reviewed, dear listener. My favorite way is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in. You get into the Patreon community. Zonia is eventually going to shoot us the video where we're going to show you beautiful people, all the craziness that happens. There's
a lot of good stuff.
What was that? What was that game that they played? It was
D&D.
D&D. There was also, what's the game the kids play? Not Fortnite.
Minecraft.
Minecraft. There's community, music, all that jazz. All that's there. You're going to have a separate portal on the website. All that for a single $1, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you are like Sori and you're a filthy capitalist and you don't want to work in a community of people.
No, it's just that you know what you want and you don't want to wait for it. And so you can take that option, which is the $125 tier, or you can do $125 through PayPal. Links are in the description. But after you've done it with us 3 times, if you do it 3 or more times, like after your 3rd time, it drops to $75 per song. So there's a little sweetness at the end of the tunnel for you.
If you take the PayPal or the Cash App option, then it goes even faster. If you do it on the Patreon side, that's cool too. We just do your song on the Revolution once the payments come in. Also, okay, so this is the selection that the big homie chose, and this is Iron Maiden, Brighter Than 1,000 Suns. We are probably going to bring back the what do you call it? The rockathons. So that might be happening. If you're familiar with a rockathon and what that's about, that'll probably excite you. Okay, Brighter Than 1,000 Suns, Iron Maiden. We hadn't had Maiden in quite some time, so I'm very excited.
Right,
let's do it. Go!
The sons of God, we are not His chosen people now. We have crossed the path He trod. We will feel the pain of His beginning. darkness, brighter than 1,000 suns. Out of the 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 darkness, brighter than 1,000 suns. the darkness. Out of the darkness. Out of the darkness.
Wow. Did you catch that last part that he said? Holy Father, without sin?
Yeah. Deep.
Wow.
Deep.
So,
deep.
at first, you know what I thought this was about? The Tower of Babel.
Really?
Well, at first, I thought that it was like the, we are not the sons of God, we are not his chosen people, now we have crossed the path he trod, we will feel the pain of his beginning. I thought it was talking about the time that they spent in slavery.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it went here, shadow fingers rise above, iron fingers stab the desert sky. Oh, behold the power of man on its tower, ready for the fall.
Well,
Knocking heads together
I think he's using
hell.
I think he's using Tower of Babel imagery to talk about.
Oh, okay. The atomic bomb is what
atomic bomb.
I got, like, when it got further down and it said, Yellow Sun, its evil twin. And then it talked about atom seed to nuclear dust is riven. I was like, oh my gosh. But that's, so I'm assuming that there was somebody named here, a guy's name.
Robert.
Is he, like, the originator or something?
It must have been somebody. Robert.
What would he have said to his god?
About how he made war with the sun. Whoever perfected the atom bomb. This was cool. Equals MC squared. You can relate. Get it? Because that's the formula for the theory of relativity.
Oh.
Which was instrumental in the whole. I was very, very smart, whoever you are.
Very smart.
Whoever wrote that.
Smart husband.
So I think on its tower, ready for the fall. I think if you look at that line, oh behold the power of man on its tower, ready for the fall.
I mean, it reminded me of the Tower of Babel, so
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah. You know, I think if you look at Babel or Babel, whatever you want to call it, they were using the cutting edge technology of the day when they figured out how to use bitumen and pitch and mortar and to build things and all that. You know, it's kind of the early dawn of, you know, human history or whatnot. So it was mankind using, you know, and it was about arrogance, right? It was, you know, let's make a name for ourselves, yada yada yada. And the confluence of like mankind coming together to build something full of arrogance and technology together. And it's really interesting in the context of this discussion because a lot of people, when God says nothing will be impossible for them, a lot of people look at that like God was afraid of them or whatever, like, oh, they're going to be able to overtake me. And so, no, that's not what's going on. What's not impossible for them is their ability to ruin themselves and destroy themselves. That's the issue. And of course...
Go completely off the plan.
Right. It's kind of like, you know, with Orion where, you know, it's like he wants to climb over the gate or whatever and tumble down the stairs. And it's like eventually it won't be impossible for him to do so. Because mankind is always kind of bent towards self-destruction. So,
It's our 1-year-old he's talking about.
I'm pretty sure everybody knows that.
Not everybody doesn't know. I mean, how many people do you think know about us? Like, there's a bunch of people I'm sure that know who it is, but there's also somebody that this is the first
if you're
time.
new to the channel, we have a 1-year-old named Orion Phoenix, and we have a baby cooking named Raisa.
Yep.
Did we settle on Genesis or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
I like.
We'll talk about it later.
Okay, fine.
Did you look up Akin? See what that means? I tried and I can't figure out how to find that.
Okay. So I think it's about nuclear technology and the nuclear bomb and all that, and the how we relate to God, which is kind of an interesting thing because it's kind of, I think one of the messages in this particular song is that we were playing God when we deployed this weapon. You know, and it's one of those conundrums that I think science can only get us how the physical universe operates. But the morality of bombing the hell out of all those people is not within the realm of science. That's now we're talking metaphysical.
Right.
And so that's what happens when, you know, and that's how you get the term mad scientist, right? Is a guy who doesn't have any sort of strictures or constrictions around what he can do once he figures
Where
out
he would
how
go
the
with that.
physical
Yeah.
universe operates,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so that is where the mad scientist sort of motif came from, which is people sitting back and saying, holy shit, what if a person figured out how to do X, Y, and Z? And there was no moral strictures around that to impede that. And so I think this is, and you know, then you come up with bioethics and that whole discipline, and bioethics is sort of like an attempt to meld the physical and the metaphysical world together in such a way so that we don't destroy ourselves ultimately, is what bioethics is about. And I think that this whole conundrum is part of it. Like, if you could go back in time, would you screw up that experiment or whatever it is? You know, everybody would.
No,
and a lot of people, you know, we, the Germans, the Russians, a lot of us were trying to figure out and crack the code for atomic, you know, weaponry, and we figured it out. We got to the finish line first, and so
somebody can figure something like that out.
that creates our dominance. That was a major part of our dominance on the planet. We would have had to invade Japan on land, I'm pretty sure, and it would have been a disaster. I watched something on the History Channel about, and it was really, there was one guy, he's like a Japanese historian or whatever, Japanese American, and the guy basically said Japan was on its last legs and about to surrender anyway.
Really?
That was the guy's argument. That wasn't what I was taught, which of course, now of course, you know, history is written by the winner, so obviously we were taught that the Japanese, we were going to have to do an land invasion of Japan, and we were going to lose, you know, 80,000 to 100,000 troops and yada yada yada. So, you know, this, you know, so then I'm watching the History Channel and this guy's like, Japan was pretty much going to surrender. It was all over for him. You know, Germany was pretty much on its last legs, yada, yada, yada. And there was obviously some debate because the other historian, you know, but then it's like, that's the conundrum of bioethics, where you say, okay, if you could go back in time and stop that, would you? And you're saying that now because you live in a post-atomic world, but we don't know what the world.
No, I don't know. I'm not. I'm not in my head that I'm
that's the
agreeing
conundrum.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know the answer to that. Well, I think I do know the answer to the question. Like, off the top of my head, I'd say no, we shouldn't have done it. But I'm saying that as a person who's living in a post-atomic world, and I have that horrible picture of that girl running, and you know,
Yes, I remember it.
horrible situation. So you have all these thoughts about, okay, how are we gonna, you know, what would you do? It's a tough question. You know, it's a very, very difficult question. And I don't think I know enough about the situation to really give an intelligent answer to that. But then I remember when we were all cloning, you know, the cloning thing happened. We cloned that sheep.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom was like, this is the end times. And then, of course, there's nothing in the Bible about cloning at all.
No,
nothing
but it's a big thing in the Pentecostal churches and stuff. The cloning thing was not a good sign. Like,
yeah, right.
It was end time stuff for sure.
Right.
I don't know why they looked at it that way.
Well, I just think
Strange advancements in science.
You're-
It's like
you're-
you're playing God, you're creating something.
Yeah, you're crossing over. And now you've got like these, like, I forgot what they call them.
I remember people, while you're thinking of that, I remember people freaking out about it. But I remember sitting there thinking, I'm kind of confused here, because if we can clone a sheep, could we clone an ear? Can we clone a heart? Can we, you know, like, can we help people with this? Like, I don't understand why we're freaking out. Like, like if they try to clone a person, all right, I agree, that could be really weird. It'll look like,
right,
you know.
But if you could grow an eye in a lab and stick it in there and connect it to something and it works, then great. And you know, it's one of the more amazing. This is one of the things to me that just boggles my mind.
Like a kidney.
You've got the greatest minds that are saying, let us work together to figure out, let's apply all of this intelligence and ingenuity to figure out how to replicate this eye that came about with no intelligence or ingenuity. I gotta tell, I struggle with that.
Makes no sense.
I struggle with that. Like you know, and I've been very, very open about my struggles with Christianity and my faith and particularly our history. But I struggle with that, man. Like, so the greatest minds of all time, who are the inheritors of what, 50,000 years of human ingenuity and technology. So you're at the bleeding edge of human achievement, and we still can't even. Like if I said, would you like a heart that nature gave you, or would you like a pacemaker? 100 out of 100 people are going to say, give me the natural one, don't give me the man-made one. And yet, nobody would believe that the pacemaker came out as a random collocation of whatever, without any intelligence or anything like that. But I'm supposed to believe that this thing happened. I just have a hard time with it. I have a hard time with that.
I think that sometimes what happens is that stuff gets taken for granted. So because we're all born with hearts, we're all born, you know what I mean? Like, then we take it for granted how unbelievably freaky and crazy it is that even works and happens for all of us, you know? I mean, you know, with the exception of some people, which, you know, they don't get functioning hearts as well as, just like, normally people are born with them. But I think that, you know what I mean? Like, if... like we're so used to the rain, for instance, that we don't realize how special it is that we even get the rain. You know, like we go to the faucet, we take it for granted, we expect the water to come out and stuff like that. So I think that sometimes that happens with stuff like that, is you don't realize how unbelievable it is and how crazy, like obviously a natural heart is totally more intricate than a pacemaker, but anyway.
Yeah. But back to bioethics. So I think he's really, and I'm pretty sure they codenamed the nuclear project Trinity. Pretty sure they did that.
Well, yeah, because
it says Trinity Reform. So like right there, like it's there are definitely some hints of the divine here, even in the minds of these people. Why they would name it codename Trinity, I don't remember from the history. I quite frankly don't remember. And the other thing was, it was originally, the city originally wasn't supposed to be Nagasaki or Hiroshima or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
It was supposed to be another city, but there was too much cloud cover, so they basically eeny, meeny, miny, moed it, went the other way. It's just like this crazy, and they were talking to one of the guys or whatever on a History Channel, and the guy basically, he talked about it like it was just like some, not necessarily a video game, but it was just, he was kind of like, yeah, it's kind of raining, so we had to go somewhere else. It's like, you're changing, like and anytime people talk about killing people en masse, one of the things that they never think about is the kids that those people would have had. And then the kids, so like you're literally like evaporating whole branches and forests of family trees.
Yeah. Yep.
And you know, it's the same
thing.
It
didn't just kill everybody, you know.
Right.
The horror was the people that got kind of stuck in limbo.
Yeah.
Dead half alive.
Yeah, and then the horrible birth defects, cancer, things of that nature. Like, but again, like I don't know. If you had a son who was supposed to, you know, was 5 days away from a landing in Japan, and the odds of him coming back to you were about zero, you know, what would you say? I don't know, man. I don't know. So this to me, like, you kind of reach an event horizon almost in the human family, which I don't know. We've probably crossed it to where your discoveries, because you're right. There's things that you can do positively with the cloning stuff, right? But it depends on what branch you're in, right? So if you're in the medical field, you're going to be like, oh wow, it can grow an extra ear. If you're in Department of Defense, you could say, whoa, we could take the best warrior of all time, like John Mace Jr., for example, who is in my mind the Michael Jordan of warfighting. So if you're part of the Department of Defense, you're like, I'm going to take Mace's DNA and we're going to replicate it and come up with an entire 50,000 super soldiers.
Creepy.
So now you don't have to do any selection courses, you don't have to do any of that stuff, because now you've got, you know,
I feel like looking in their eyes would be really scary.
Well, yeah, but see, that's why I don't think that AI or any of that stuff is ever going to achieve that stuff, because I do not believe. I was just listening to, forgot who it was. It was a panel with Neil deGrasse Tyson, somebody else, or it wasn't McKenna, it was somebody else, where the guy basically said, I reject the notion that the mind and that consciousness is generated from the brain. He said, we don't have enough information about that at all, and anybody who says that we do is full of shit, blah, 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 which I agree. But he was like, so we don't know about.
Right.
I'll try to link the video because it was a very, very fascinating video where this guy was obviously, I mean, the guy wasn't saying that it came from God or whatever, but he was like, all of our current attempts at explaining consciousness are ridiculous. So I don't believe that we're ever going to be able to do that, because I believe that that consciousness is an actual, it's a supernatural or supranatural thing. Me and Ian are going to have a conversation, because I don't really necessarily believe in what people call supernatural, but that's a different story. So anyway, my point is, this is a really, really complex stuff, and it really like touches on the whole concept of bioethics, and if people think that bioethics is a simple thing, it's not. You know, anytime I get in a conversation about abortion, for example, I bring up Francesca Minerva, Martina Gubalini. You know, these are bioethicists at the doctoral level who say, yeah, it's okay to kill a newborn child, because a newborn child isn't really a person, because a person has concepts of the future and aims in that future, and because a newborn doesn't have a concept of the future or aims in the future, then it's not really a person, so you should be able to kill it. And then she goes, when the line is between when they do have aims or not, we don't really know, but let's, you know, the tie goes to the runner, basically, and let the parents decide to dispense with the child. Unbelievable stuff. And she was saying, from this perspective, there are certain animals that are more persons than babies, and so it would be more of a crime to kill, you know, your 2-year-old black lab who does have aims and does have a concept of the future in the sense that he aims at getting his dog food or whatever, than would be to kill your newborn who has no such thing. So bioethics is not a uniform discipline at all that has, you know, I think it's a pathetic attempt to try. I think people understand the ramifications of an empty universe and scientific advancement, and I think bioethics is an attempt to preserve ourselves from our own self-destruction. And I obviously, from my perspective, I don't think we're gonna get there. Not with the bioethicists anyway. So anyway, what do you give the song?
It was a 9.9 for me. I really liked it.
It was a solid 9.
The heavy part.
Was it really like the traditional Iron Maiden, the one that makes you want to run and stuff? And I didn't really get that hype. And there were a couple times when I felt like the music was disjointed from the vocals. So.
Oh really? Oh, I didn't.
Give it a solid 9, 8.9. Good song though. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.
The sons of God, we are not His chosen people now. We have crossed the path He trod. We will feel the pain of His beginning. Strange love is born. darkness, right